So I think I'm ready. So thank you for having me. As I already said, it's my first time talking to such a big stage. I'm really happy with the surprise I had. I couldn't even imagine that this would happen. So we're going to talk about Lighthouse and what it means to Angular and how you can use it, actually a deep dive. So who am I? I'm Peeters. I'm from Belgium, so it's a home game. I work for Mediahuis, or Mediahuis in Dutch. They're a newspaper company, and I'm a front-end architect there, so yeah, just creating the websites there. And actually on the side, I work at Google as an external contractor on the Lighthouse project. So what's Lighthouse? It's actually a tool to guide you in your web, when you're creating websites or web applications, because it's become so hard to think about all the things that are happening, best practices, speed, and all those things. You're using Angular, which is great. It does the heavy lifting for you, so you don't have to think a lot about the performance itself. So they give you a lot of tools, but you probably have seen this logo before. That's the logo of Lighthouse. It might have popped up in when you were surfing the web. So actually, what is Lighthouse? It's a tool, you run it, and you actually get a report. So the report tells you about what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, how you can improve it. I'm going to dive in the report first. So we have a few categories. We have the performance category, PWA, or progressive web app category, accessibility, best practices, and SEO. So they might not be all applicable to all of you, because when you create private applications, after a login, you don't really care about SEO. But if you create websites or public-facing applications, they might come in handy. So I dive in the performance tab. It's actually just how fast is my site, how can I improve it. And actually, on the right, you see all the audits. It doesn't really matter, but it's more like how many they are, so we check a lot. And when we zoom in on the report, you see all those metrics. So you see a first contentful paint, speed index, and yada yada. You also see a film strip about the loading of your website. But actually, when you're a developer, it might make sense. But if you're a business owner or not technical, you get these metrics from first paint, first contentful paint. They might not seem telling you much. So actually, we can map these metrics on more the user way of thinking about these things, like is it happening, is it useful, is it usable, and is it delightful? The last thing is the best, delightful, what a great word. And actually, if you see the film strip at the bottom, you can see that on the second screen, the first paint, for this application, it's not really relevant because the user can't see anything. Then you have contentful paint, which actually gives you like a search bar. And you'll see that the users can actually already interact. So then there's a logo happening, which doesn't do much, and then you have meaningful paint, or also a new API is there, Hero Element API, which actually just says the biggest image or the biggest text on your page, or you can define it yourself. And then you also have time to interact if it just means when is the CPU idle, and everything goes smoothly from there. So these metrics are hard to optimize. So if you look at the report, we give you opportunities and diagnostics, like how can I improve these scores? For example, load my JavaScript bundle is too big. We have to split it up with code splitting. And the diagnostic is things we have found in your application, but we can't really pinpoint if it would help you. We say the critical part, like your CSS, we can find all those things, but we're not sure if it's easy to optimize or if it's even possible for your application. And then the next thing is a progressive web app, which is hot right now. Everyone's talking about service workers, progressive web apps. Angular has it built in. You can just enable it. And it comes down to a few pieces like fast and reliable, is it installable, and is it optimized? Most of the people just want it installable, like the Angular NGB app. It's installable and it works offline. And when we look at it, a PWA has to be reliable, fast, and engaging. Reliable just means never see the dinosaur. When you're on a train, you have bad networking. Everything just goes smoothly. So you get a pop-up like you're offline, or maybe you have the page cached. Fast is just that everything works smoothly. You click on an image, you get a transition, and all those things Angular actually, with the router and those things, provides for you, which is why Angular is so great. And engaging is just making it as good as a native app, or try to be as good as a native app. They all have their own place, so it's not like native is bad or PWA are better. Just use the best tool for the job. When you look at the report, this is a bit more boring, so it just says you have it or not. All those report scores are done on the NGB website. Not want to judge them or anything. But we felt that this report wasn't really good enough. So actually we created something new, badges, a badge system. Because of the categories, we wanted to tell them, oh, your app is installable, good job. When it's fast and reliable, good job. Just makes it a bit more clear. So we have all these steps. When you have nothing, you don't get any shiny badge. When you're installable, you get the plus icon. When you're reliable and fast, you get the other one, and so on and so on. And if you have a score of 100 on the PWO, you get this super nice badge. And you will see that badge pop up later on in the year in other parts of the web, like Google search maybe, or other parts. So now it looks like this. So we made the categories. It's pretty hard to read. So you have the fast and reliable, installable, and PWA optimized. And at the right top, you have the badge. So as well, this is from the website, NGBE website, so there's no PWA support. So if you go to a PWA supported website, I could have taken the app, but my slides were already made. So this is Airhorner. It's a cool app. When you click on the horn, it just does bump. Yeah, best app ever. So just look it up and try it out, but try it out after my talk. Then something else is like accessibility, which is actually the hardest part of web development, because it's a feature or something that we think of a feature, and actually it's a necessity. You have to think about your users. Is my color contrast okay? Do I have alt text for screen readers? And from an application point of view, it might be unnecessary, but there are things like labels and all those things that might help you there. We're not accessibility experts either, so we use X. It's a well-known accessibility library, and we just run it as part of Lighthouse. The report is not really fancy. We just tell you what's wrong and what's not wrong, what's good. Then best practices. This is actually the category that changes the most, because best practices emerge and fall out. It's things like use HTTP2, do not use document writes, and you get just a list of what you're doing good. But the best feature of this is actually the no vulnerable libraries. Don't know why I want to speak that word in my talk, because it's so hard. And it comes down to the security talk that was given previously, and actually a lot of data leaks is happening. And this doesn't really matter if it's front-end or back-end, but there are some data leaks from Discuss or PlayStation, or even in the .NET Core Docker image 1.1, there's a lot of vulnerabilities as well. So actually we, like a month ago, or maybe a few weeks ago, we had this issue. There was an NPM package compromised by a cryptocurrency. It was event stream, which was used on a lot of other packages, so it was a low dependencies, like Vue CLI had issues with it. I don't know Angular CLI, but you can see that those things can come up even if you don't know about it. So we integrated with Snyk. It's Snyk.io. It's a tool that you can buy and run on the server, and it checks PHP, Go, .NET, and all kind of languages. But we also check your client-side bundles. for example, if you're still running an old AngularJS app, like 1.4, you will get an error saying that it's compromised for XSS attacks. The newer AngularJS or the current versions of Angular don't have that issue anymore. But it's always nice to have. Sorry. The report doesn't really look so fancy. Then SEO, most of the time for creating apps, not that important, but I want to talk about that as well. This is actually the smallest one we have right now. Just checking viewport here, having a title, nothing too fancy. We're still adding some new features like the structured data part that we can automate and make sure it's valid, but it's really tricky. So actually just getting fancy stuff in SEO. So you have the boring text fields, but you can add images and reviews and whatever. So we help you with that. And also on the right, when you're creating a PWA or even an app, there's an ability to register you at Firebase. And when you look for your app, you get some nice images that you can just get redirected to the App Store. So the report again. So these are all the categories we have right now. So performance, progressive web app, accessibility, best practice in SEO. And the thing that, like I already said before, a lot of app developers or Angular application developers or React developers, they say, my app is private and everyone's on Wi-Fi, everyone has the latest and greatest hardware, but it's not always that way, because when you're developing, you might have a MacBook 2,000 or 3,000 euros, but maybe sales or whatever user that's using your app you created might be on a slow laptop, like 500 euros or 700 euros, and you can't forget about that because network isn't the only thing. We had this struggle with AngularJS in the past, so the past framework, that it wasn't performant on mobile. Because no one thought about it. It was like, oh, we just do one request and that would be fine, right? But then we saw that CPU was really a bottleneck as well. So you shouldn't be forgetting that. So actually, I'm no Angular developer, so sorry about that. But I found an app, Ecosphere, on GitHub, which was open source, and it was created by a senior Angular dev, so it has to be good, right? So I did some performance course. So it uses Angular CLI and does code splitting. But like the talk before noon, they said also performance is hard. Angular gives you all the tools, but if you don't know about the tools or you can't figure it out, you still have a bad score on mobile, like performance 27. But if you run it on desktop, it's 86. At the top, you can also see how it was run. So at the top image is an emulated Nexus 5X with a slow 4G network, and then at the bottom, no emulation, no throttling. So I just hacked this slide just like an hour or two ago because I got the green light to actually show this, because this is really alpha stage. We're still discussing about naming. How are we going to name this? And how are we going to integrate it like community-based and get all the reviews done? So the idea is that we detect that you're Angular, that you have an Angular app, and now we just say your JavaScript bundle is too big. And with this, we can actually tell Angular developers like, oh, you should code split or use AOT compilation. So just make it more Angular-like. And we do it for all, like WordPress, React, and everything. So this is just changing what you already have, but you're also looking at the plugin ecosystem, like we do, like you have ESLint, so that we can create, or the community can create Angular plugins for telling you, oh, you're not running in prod mode, or you're not running in AOT mode, or you're not code splitting, and all of that. So I see all looking at me like, yeah, where the hell can I find it? It's so amazing. And it's been performance or all those things are really hard to measure, but actually now you don't have that. You can't say that you can't know how to do it, because actually if you're using Chrome, it's just in the DevTools. So you pop up DevTools, you have the audit panel, and you can select your categories and choose your throttling, your emulation, and just run audits. You also have the extension, which is just a Chrome extension you can install, and you have the CLI, which gives you more advanced techniques to change things. So you can change your own throttling on the CLI. You can test your website behind authentication and those things. The only caveat we have here is that DevTools runs not on the latest Lighthouse. So the problem is that it's inside Chrome, so we have to follow the release cycle. So if you want the latest and greatest Lighthouse, you have to use the extension or the CLI. This is all the options that CLI provides. This isn't really important what it is, but you can have a lot of options here. So actually, you just have to run this. So you install it with npm install -g Lighthouse or yarn global add Lighthouse, and you can just run it like this. And this will use the default config, which is all the audits, Nexus 5X slow of 4G. But yeah, ain't nobody got time for that to just do it every day or every minute or every feature. So let's talk about automation. Running it locally isn't the same as running it on a CI or whatever. So actually there are tooling to support you and do it automatically. So you have a few free ones like Google PageSpeed. I think almost everyone has heard about it. It actually uses Lighthouse under the hood right now for about a month. They also have an API that you can use. I think they haven't changed it yet, but you could do 10,000 page views with it a month, which is actually really a lot. So you don't have to set up your Chrome or whatever, just use it. Web page test has the feature as well. It has it for like 2 years already or a year. And web.dev is actually something new that Chrome launched or Google launched a month ago, which is a place where they help you improve your website. So it's more like a learning ground where you just put your website, you get your scores, and they tell you how to improve. And they have some tutorials on how to preload stuff. But it's still beta, so there's still some rough edges. You also have some paid solutions like Trio or SpeedCurve or Calibre. They actually so Trio and Calibre are a lot more focused on Lighthouse. SpeedCurve also integrates with web page test. But they cost money. We also have something like Lighthouse CI, which is not the greatest package. It has integration with GitHub, and we do a lot of we do all the tests, but it's on Google Cloud, and it's sometimes flaky because it runs from America. But we know that it's not the greatest. So actually, we're looking at new ways like that you can do it on-premise. We're going to create some Docker images and just some tooling that you can follow how you progress over time. Because you have a PR and you set your budget on 80, and next you had a budget of 90, and you drop down to 85. It's not a big deal. The next feature comes down, it's 84, 83, and actually the last feature that you're going to add maybe drops down to 79, and you break. But actually, that feature wasn't an issue. Maybe if an issue was like 3 features before. So we're still figuring out how to do it, and we have some ideas about it, but it's still not completely figured out. And actually, I probably went super fast because when I'm nervous, I'm I talk really fast, but actually that was my talk. We love contributors, so we have some first issues. So if you wanna join the Lighthouse club, you can just open up GitHub and start hacking. Thank you very much.